Sunday School Prayer and Singing of the Lord, June the 7th, 2020. Bible class present 17th, offering $345. Children class present 7, total present 24. In the treasury we had $804.84. Took out $170.09 for the gas bill. Today's offering made a total treasure of $979.75. In the missions we had $1,549.71. We had offering today of $86. Makes a total of $1,635.71. Tithes today was $1,639. Turn search to the pastor.
Wait, it's already on.
Thank you for the offering. May the Lord bless you.
It's already on.
I'm sorry.
It's already on.
Okay. We have, Brother David said, $1,600 in the mission funds. Now, before, and I just want to say this and get this out of the way, before we have had tent meetings, and last year there was we spent about, I'd really be afraid to guess, maybe $1,000 last year for the tent meeting that come out of our mission fund. Brother Joe is wanting to know, actually, if we want another tent meeting, but I'll just have to tell you that I have seen no progress with our tent meetings, and many of our home folks don't go to that tent meeting at all. Not on our church night and not on the other nights. So, that being said, I don't see how it accomplished anything for our church, except our Father which is in heaven saw our efforts and our outreach to the community. But we did not get one visitation from the town people to come and visit our church. We, as a church, because I know we're really introverted, people don't realize how shy that we are, but we went above and beyond what we would have done, reaching out to the people that were there, because we did have a few visitors at the tent meetings. But as far as it helping build our church, we have not gotten one visit, and we've had it 3 years in a row, I believe is how many times we've had the tent meeting. Now, if we have an agreement after church, if you would like to come and say, you know, I think we really ought to have the tent meeting, and I'm going to be faithful, I'm going to pray about it, and let's go ahead and have a tent meeting. We may consider that again. But at least probably 50% of the church did not attend any of the church tent meeting at all. And that being said, they just got a free night to stay at home because they didn't, someone that I lost power. It might be my can you find me on that board, Jaden? I've got a different mic. Can you find me? All right, so that's probably the batteries. Okay. 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 Is that turned off? Okay.
It's on.
Oh, it's on?
Here it is.
Okay, you found me right here. You found me right here. Okay, so I'm gonna just have to say for myself, if we want to have a tent meeting, that's all right. But I don't find her helped us at all. I think it would have benefited us better to have a revival right here, because I think the 50% of the church that thought it was too hard or too uncomfortable to go to the tent, they would have come to the church and had revival. So that being said, I'm gonna get off of that and go somewhere else. We had in the past, we had supported the Bible printing that they do in Pauls Valley. They had a Bible printing business that they bought in Ada, and for a while they had the business in Ada, then they moved it to an old building in Pauls Valley, and the building leaked and some of their stuff got wet. Anyway, they built a new building and put their equipment in the new building, and they had contacted me, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, and said we urgently need help. And if you could find some way to help us, it would anyway be appreciated. I personally sent small cash, but I know that they needed help, and we have $1,600 in the missions fund. Now these Bibles that they're it's these Bibles. And last time when the church started supporting them, I called the company and asked for 20 Bibles, and I had been supporting them for a while before I brought it to the church, and the church started supporting the Bible printing. They take these in jails and in prisons, and then they pass out these Bibles, knocking doors and stuff. You will probably never see the result of these Bibles, but you will know your Father which is in heaven saw that you had an interest in the Word going forth. And so if it has been suggested by someone to maybe take $500 of the missionary funds and send to the Bible printing establishment, whatever, that they could print off some more Bibles. So if that's something that you would like the church to be in doing again, then we can get started on that. But if you don't mind, Brother David is acting as a secretary since we lost Sister Renee, and we've never given that to anyone else. He just kind of picked up where she left off. But if you would just go tell Brother David that you agree that it would be great for the church to send $500 of the funds that we already have to the Bible Society or whatever. And we got that out of the way. God is so good. He is so good. I tell you what, we're living in dangerous times. But the Bible already promised that where sin doeth abound, the grace of God doeth much more abound. And several years ago, I don't know how long it's been. I don't think that I had grandchildren then, so it's been several years ago. But they in the foreign countries, they were killing people that was Christians. And one of the ministers went over to a country and was going to the underground church there. And they were telling us that every day many people would turn over to the Lord in these countries where persecution was so strong. And in one country in particular, they cannot even mention the name of Jesus. They will be beheaded. They will be in serious trouble. They will be detached, that's for sure. And they were telling, there was over, I believe it was at that time, 133,000 Christians in this particular area that they were persecuting so severely, the Christians there. And there were over 133, and they said people were getting saved every day. They were having a great underground revival. Amen. And I tell you that it has brought a shame to a country where there is no law that says we cannot go to church, and there is no secret police that is among us that I know of. You're very secret if you are. But we have a right to worship, amen, and a right to praise the Lord. And it seems like we're not having the revivals that they're having. God help us. All right, if you have your Bibles and you want to turn with me, I want you, if you will, to turn with me to Mark the 13th chapter. Mark the 13th chapter. And I want to go to the 32nd verse. But of that day and of that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. And This here is Jesus, and he's telling the disciples here that no man knows when Jesus is going to return. Nobody knows about the rapture or the catching away or the second coming of the Lord. Take heed, watch, and pray, for you know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. And probably would be very hard for you to understand what I'm wanting to get across this morning, and it's to watch. Watch. The Bible tells us that if the goodman of the house would have known in what hour the thief would have come, he would have watched. And oftentimes you hear, many years ago, not so much now anymore, and probably because I'm out of sync with what's really going on, but they would have soldiers out in the battlefield, and they would be in a foxhole, and one soldier would be on shift to watch, and he was to watch for any peculiar movement or anybody that he thought was suspicious, or the enemy that was coming very close to where they were hidden out. He was to watch. He was to deprive himself of going and getting a glass of water, if they even had water in the foxhole, or looking in his bag too long for something to snack on. He was to deprive himself of sleep, because he was set to be a watchman. And he was to be a watchman not only in his life, but in the lives of his comrades. That's why he was supposed to watch. And history would tell us that if they were caught asleep, they had to give their life, because they jeopardized the lives of others. And they were killed in friendly fire. Their life was taken because they had jeopardized the lives of others. Now, when the enemy came, it would have been merciful for them to have shot the men in the foxhole, but many times they were tortured. So that one person that failed to watch was in serious, serious trouble. And the Bible said in Matthew the 27th verse, Matthew 24 and 37, as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And we know by reading the story of Noah, we know that during this time that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. And Noah, no doubt, tried to compel them to turn from their wicked ways and turn to the God of heaven. Noah tried to get them to stop what they were doing and honor the God in heaven. But they paid no heed to them or to him, and they continued in their riotous living, and so that the day of the flood came upon them unaware. Now their sins were brought before them. They were told that they were doing wrong, but they did not think they would have to pay the consequences of their behavior. So here it says, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doeth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. And who then is a faithful and a wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, and give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Amen. And the Bible tells us that the kingdom of heaven is likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And we know the story of the 5 foolish virgins. There were 5 wise and there were 5 foolish. And the 5 wise made sure they had everything that they needed in order to keep their lamps burning. Amen. They had their lamp in their hand. They had the wicks, and they trimmed their wicks, and then they had the oil that they needed for that lamp to sustain its light. Amen. But there were 5 foolish that had their lamps in their hands, and their wicks were trimmed, but they did not have oil to prepare for a journey. Amen. And the Bible tells us not to be weary in well-doing. That we are going to reap. There is an end of the journey. Amen. I can remember being in high school and I thought I would never get my license. I probably just won't live that long. I'll probably, of all Daddy's girls, I'll probably be the one that don't get my license. Because we didn't have things to occupy our time back then. So we had worry to occupy our time. Then I decided, I'll make it my license, but I'll probably never marry. I'll be the girl at home that is Daddy's old maid, and I'll never get married. And just on, and then I reached middle age, and wow, I finally got to obtain wisdom, and I don't know. Then I went to over the hill. And now I've reached 60. Amen. And I'll have to say, I believe I have more wisdom than I ever had. And it's probably not enough to fill my hand, but I do have more than I've ever had in my life. But, well, my thought just left me, and that goes along with being 60, I guess. But anyway, these virgins here, they had their lamps, but for whatever reason, they did not make sure they had enough oil for their journey. Amen. And so here now, because the Bible said that they were virgins, we have to understand. I know where I was going now, but we have to understand that they were good, clean, virtuous, morally upright people. They were ones that did not lower their standards. They were virgins. They were ones that could not be persuaded to make their garments unclean. They were virgins. They had kept themselves separated and unspotted from the world. They were virgins. But they lacked the ambition to go out and get oil. They lacked the ambition to make sure that everything was in order so that they would not be caught unaware. I don't know. Perhaps they had a job that kept them busy. I don't know. Perhaps they were doing community projects and they were just busy all the time and they always meant to get some oil, but they found themselves in this situation at this time. If you read on the Jewish weddings, you may get a spouse when you're just a child. And when you get a spouse, then there is a ceremony that they go through, and the girl goes back to her family, and the boy goes back to his family. But from the moment that ceremony is over, they begin to prepare themselves for their marital home. Amen. And the girl begins to can and to preserve food. and to make sure that she has all the kitchen utensils that she needs. She makes sure she has cup towels and dish rags, and she tries to make sure that she has what she needs to step out of her parents' house and go into a home that's been prepared for her, and she has everything she needs to make that house a home. Amen. Right. And so from the time that she is a spouse, she is preparing, and according to what I have read, she is to have a year's supply of food that she has prepared for her home, amen, so that her husband, it's not necessary that he go out and worry about anything, because they have a year that they can survive without any extra help. All right, now here we have these virgins, and they are to make themselves prepared because they know the bridegroom is coming. They don't know when, they don't know what hour. Now, if this young man, if he came from a home that didn't have very many sons to help the father, it may take him a little longer. He was to go home, and he was to prepare a house. So he was to purchase the land, if the land needed to be purchased, and he was to gather wood or stone, whatever he was going to make out of that house, and he was to build his wife a house so that when she come together they could make it a home. That house was to be finished to the last stone or the last board or the last paint that was to go on that house. It was to be complete. It was to be fully paid for. Would we be in trouble if we couldn't marry until we got a house paid for? But it was to be paid for. Everything was to be in order. She did not know when he was going to come. She did not know in the hour. But as history would tell us that they done then, and many of them do today, he would come in an hour that she didn't know when it would be. Amen. And he would come together with his friends, and they would make a big ado and a lot of noise, and they would come and they would call out to the bride, who was to be immediately ready when she heard the sound. Amen. So here we have, there's 10 of these young ladies, and they know that the bridegroom is going to come. They know they're to be expecting him. I don't know how old they were when they got a spouse, but I know one thing, that they had a bridegroom coming for them. Amen. Now there were 5 that in the busyness, can I just make this realistic here, in the busyness of them preparing and fixing cloth, because many of them made their own cloth, and while they were busy making their tea towels and their dish rags and their tablecloths and their curtains that would hang in the house, while they were busy bringing in the goods from the garden and canning them or preserving them as they would in that day, they always made sure that even though they had all of these chores to do, they made sure that they checked that oil. They made sure that their wick was ready. They made sure that their lamp did not have a crack in it or was working properly. But there were 5 that were busy, and they had forgot that are some things that if we barely get by, it's still okay. But with the oil, it can't be that way. If they had enough jars for 11 months, it would have been okay. Because they could have ate tight for a year and spread that 11 months and made it into 12. You could do that. Amen. But you couldn't afford to let that oil run out. What are the things important in your life? We all have to have food. We have to have raiment. There's things that we have to have. But are we neglecting the oil? The Bible said, watch, watch, watch. Some of us have longer days than others. We don't know. We don't know when we're going to need that oil. But we do know we're going to need it to get out of here. We do know we're going to need it to be in good standing with the bridegroom. Why is it that the oil is the one thing that we wait to the very last? We make sure that we have the dish rags we need. We make sure that we have the raiment that we need. We make sure that we have food on the table that we need. But we forget about the oil. Watch. Watch. You don't have to have so much when it jeopardizes your oil. You don't have to live with so much. Listen, I can remember these elders that's older than I am, and they talk about holding revivals, and they were the evangelists of the day, and they had 2 shirts, and they had 2 pair of pants, and God blessed them in revival, and God gave them souls. You know why? Because they were worried about the oil and not the provisions. Amen. Because God said, I'll take care of the provisions. You take care of the oil. Amen. Oh, I want to tell you, we can tell exactly where we're at, can't we? Amen. America as a whole is looking for the provisions and not worrying about the oil. Amen. Well, I'm getting stuck there. And let me read some more chapters here, or verses here. The Bible said, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Let your loins be girded about, and your lights burning. How is that light going to burn without the oil? It's not, my brother. It's not. And ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. Who's this talking about? It's talking about the Lord when he comes back and he finds that you have been busy, that your oil has remained, amen. That while you made provisions for yourself and for others, you still made sure that you had enough oil. And I want to tell us that these girls that were set apart, that were clean, that knew how to live, that have abstained from wickedness, and that all these many great things, it wasn't that they didn't work hard. good, because if you do those, you're going to go to jail. It's good that you don't do them. But what's important is that you remember the oil. That's what's important. Busy, yes. Busier than I've ever been. I used to sit around and wonder, how long was it going to be before school started again? We had already had summer, and it seemed like summer and summer again. And I was ready for school to start again. And now it seems like, I'm not in school anymore, so it don't really matter. But now it seems like by the time they get out, it's time to start again. I'm busier than I've ever been. But I cannot focus on everything else and not the oil. I've got to focus on the oil. And all of these things will take place themselves. What are the things that matter in your life? Now, you know, you've got to have food. And you've got to have clothes. You know that. You've got to have water. But what else is important? You got to have money to pay those bills. But what else is important? I want to tell us, if we put God first in our lives, He'll make sure that we have job opportunities. He'll make sure that there's food on the table. And He'll make sure that we have the things that we need. If we make sure the oil in the lamp is full. Is your oil full today? Is your lamp full? Do you have a bottle sitting to the side that if you need more oil, you can get it? I want to tell us that the Spirit of the Lord is available. And can I tell us, we don't have to be in revival to get the oil filled.
Amen.
We don't have to have an outstanding preacher to get the oil filled. But we can be alone, and we can pray in our own closet. And we can pray when nobody hears us, and we can get our oil filled. It's up to you and I as an individual to say, Lord, here's my cup. I need it filled. Let's everybody come in and pray this morning.